Hello, students. In today's session, we shall start with a new lesson in economics. It is lesson number 1, Gross Domestic Product and its Growth and Introduction. Gross Domestic Product, in short, we call it as GDP. GDP is widely used to measure and to determine the size of the economy of a nation. In this lesson, we shall study about more in detail on what is meant by gross domestic product, and also we shall study how to calculate this GDP. Learning objectives. Through this lesson, we come to know about the meaning of the gross domestic product, to understand the basic various measures of the national income. We shall also understand the composition of GDP and know about the contributions of different sectors in GDP. We shall also study about the economic growth and development and its differences, and know about the development path based on GDP and employment. And finally, we come to know about the growth of GDP and economic policies. Introduction. Now, let us know about what is GDP with a general example. If someone asks you, "How are you?" then what will be your reply? Your reply might be, "I am fine, I am okay," or "I am not well." Isn't it? Likewise, if anyone asks you how India is doing, then what will be your reply? Based on what strategy you will reply to this question? Yes, you will reply to this question based on the economic growth of your country. This economic growth is calculated based on the total amount of goods and services produced in India within a time period. And this is what we call it as GDP. So, GDP represents the total amount of goods and services produced in a country within a financial year or a time period. Goods and services. So, in order to understand more clearly about GDP, we have to understand what is meant by goods and services. Imagine what happens in a hotel. For example, you go to hotel and you order two idlis and a cup of tea. Your order is noted and it is prepared. Someone else prepares the idlis and tea for you, and someone else serves it for you. Those orders, that is the idlis and tea, which is placed on your table, are said to be tangible. Tangible means these are physical things that you can touch and feel. So the economists call such tangible items as goods. So the tangible items, that is the items which you can touch and feel, are said to be the goods according to the economist. And these goods are not free, but you have to pay, or it has to be paid for it. And on the other side, someone else works for you to provide this idlis and tea, isn't it? The chef or the cooks cook the food for you, and the server serves the food for you. So these cooking and serving are something that you cannot feel and touch. So they are said to be non tangible. That is, they are not tangible as you cannot touch and feel. Without the work or the effort made by the cook or the server, you cannot get the idlis and tea. So, therefore, the economists say such activities as services. So, children, can you understand what is meant by goods and services? Goods are tangible, that is, you can touch and feel, and the services are not tangible. What happens every day in a hotel at nationwide? Goods and services are produced and paid for, and this is what the GDP measures. Definition of GDP. The GDP is the market value of all the final goods and services produced in the country during a time period. The time period is usually 1 year, that is a financial year. So, therefore, GDP is the market value of goods and services produced within the country border, irrespective of whether the product is produced by the residents of that country or a non resident of that country. And here is the formula to calculate the GDP. GDP equal to consumption plus investment plus government expenditure plus the difference between the total value of exports and imports. Here, consumption means the total value of goods or the services that is used, and expenditure means the spending amount. And here are the three terms in order to understand the GDP more clearly. Goods and services. As we have already studied earlier, goods are tangible items while services are activities which are intangible. Next is market value. Market value is the price at which the goods and services are sold in the market. That is, it is the final price of the goods and services which are sold in the market, and final goods and services. Two famous economists have said that final goods and services are the goods and services which will be used or consumed. That is, the final goods and services are the one which will be used by the final consumer or the customer. For example, the tea is said to be the final product which is directly consumed by the user or the customer, and the materials used for preparing tea powder, sugar, milk, all these are said to be intermediate goods because these intermediate goods are used to prepare another final goods or intermediate goods. Can you understand? So, the final product or the services which is directly consumed or used by the customer is said to be the final goods and services, and those intermediate goods are used for producing other goods. So, can you understand the difference between the final goods and services and the intermediate goods and services? Yes. And now let us move on to the next topic. It is national income. National income. National income is a measure of the total money value of goods and services produced by an economy over a period of time, normally a year. That is, national income is the sum total of the value of all goods and services manufactured by the residents of the country in a year. And this manufacture of goods and services might be within the domestic boundaries of a country or outside the country, but it must be by the resident of that country. The national income is commonly called as gross national product or national dividend. Here are the various terms associated with measuring of national income. First one, it is the gross national product, GNP. The gross national product is the total value of goods and services produced and income received in a year by domestic residents of a country. It includes profits earned from capital invested abroad. That is, it takes the income earned by the citizen of the country present within or outside the country into consideration, and it excludes the income generated by the foreign nationals who are residing in the country. The formula for calculating GNP is consumption plus investment plus government expenditure plus the difference between the export and import, and including that is the addition of net factor income from abroad. When you keenly look into this formula, it is similar to the formula which we use for calculating GDP. The only difference is the net factor income from abroad is not included in GDP. Here, the net factor income from abroad means the income earned by the citizen of the country who is present outside the country is also considered. But he must be a resident of India, that is, a citizen of India. Next one is the gross domestic product. As we have already studied, the gross domestic product is the total value of output of goods and services produced by the factors of production within the geographical boundaries of the country. And third one is the net national product. Net national product is arrived by making some adjustment with regard to depreciation. Here, depreciation means the money value of an asset decreases over time due to its use. For example, the depreciation of equipments, computer, machinery. So, all the value of these assets starts to reduce as we use. So, therefore, the depreciation is the money value of an asset which decreases over time due to usage. Therefore, we finally arrive at the national calculating the national net national product by deducting the value of depreciation from the gross national product. Therefore, the formula to calculate net national product is equal to GNP minus depreciation. Net domestic product. Net domestic product is a part of gross domestic product, that is, NDP is a part of GDP. The NDP is obtained from the gross domestic product by deducting the quantum of tear and wear expenses, which we call it as depreciation. So, therefore, NDP equal to GDP minus depreciation. Fifth one is per capita income. Per capita income or output per person is an indicator to show the living standard of people in a country. So, based on this per capita income, we can easily identify the living standard of people in a particular country. This per capita income is calculated by dividing the national income by the population of a country. That is, per capita income for a nation is calculated by dividing the country's national income by its population. Sixth one is the personal income. Personal income is the total money income received by individuals and households of a country from all possible sources before direct taxes. That is, personal income refers to an individual's total earnings from wages, investment, enterprises, and other ventures. Example, rent derived from property or profit sharing from businesses, etc. So, therefore, it is the sum of all income received by the individuals during a given period. Seventh one is disposable income. Disposable income means actual income which can be spent on consumption by individuals and families. Thus, it can be expressed as DPI equal to PI, that is personal income minus direct taxes. So, therefore, disposable income is also known as disposable personal income, and it is the amount of money that an individual has spent or saved after the income taxes have been deducted. On the other side, the disposable income can also be calculated from the consumption based approach. Based on the consumption approach, the disposable income is equal to consumption expenditures plus savings. Gross domestic product GDP. In order to calculate the GDP for a country, we have to consider these two factors. The first factor is that we have to check whether the goods or services is produced in that particular country for which we have to calculate the GDP. For example, the GDP of India includes only the market value of goods and services produced in India. For example, the market value of apples produced in Kashmir are included in our GDP because Kashmir is in India. So therefore, the market value of the Kashmir apples are included in GDP. But the market value of apples produced in California are not included in our GDP because California is in US. Even though those apples are sold in India, they are not included to calculate India's GDP. So therefore, the first factor we have to consider that whether the goods or services are produced in our country. The second factor to be considered is whether the goods or services are produced within a time period. In India, the GDP is measured both annually and quarterly, that is, once in a year or once in 3 months. The annual GDP is said to be the financial year, which starts from April 1st to March 31st of the next year. For example, if we calculate the GDP of financial year 2010, then we have to calculate it from April 1st of 2010 to March 31st of 2011. So this is said to be one financial year. The second factor, as we have already told, we have to consider the time period. That is, we have to check whether the goods and services are produced within this time period. The GDP of a country measures the market value of goods and services produced only during the specified time period. The goods and services produced in earlier periods, that is, before the time period, are not included to calculate the GDP. So these are the two factors which we have to consider by calculating the GDP. One is we have to see whether the goods and services are produced within the country's border, for which country we have to calculate the GDP, and second factor is that we have to consider whether the goods and services are produced during a time period. Methods of calculating GDP. First one is expenditure approach. In this method, The GDP is measured by adding the expenditure of all the final goods and services produced in the country during a specified period. That is, expenditure means the act of spending money. In this expenditure approach method, the GDP is measured by adding the amount spent on all the final goods and services which are produced in the country during a specified period. And the formula is, as we already know, GDP equal to consumption plus investment plus government expenditure plus the difference between the exports and the imports. Income approach. This method looks at GDP from the perspective of earnings of the men and women who are involved in the producing the goods and services. The income approach to measuring GDP is Y equal to wages plus rent plus interest plus profit. That is, in the income approach, it sums the factor, that is, it adds the factors income to the factors of production. And the third one is the value added approach. In this value added method, the sum of the value added by all the intermediate goods used in the production gives us the total value of the final goods produced in the economy. For example, a cup of tea served to you in a hotel is the final good, and the goods like tea powder, milk, sugar, which are used to produce the tea, are said to be the intermediate goods. In this value added approach method, the market value of the cup of tea is obtained by adding the values of each intermediate goods. That is, the value of intermediate goods like tea powder plus milk plus sugar gives the value of the final goods, that is the tea. So these are the three methods of calculating GDP. They are expenditure approach, income approach and value added approach. Now let us see the importance of GDP. GDP helps to study the economic growth of the country. Gross domestic product, that is GDP, is one of the most important indicator to determine the economic status of a country. A rise in GDP is an indicator that the economy of a country is expanding and the people are spending their money, and therefore it shows that an economy of a country is growing stronger. The second point is problem of inflation and deflation. Inflation means it is an increase in the general prices of goods and services in an economy, and deflation is the general decline in prices of goods and services. So inflation means increase in the general price of goods and services in an economy, and deflation is the decline in prices of goods and services in an economy. If both these factors are not stable, it causes major variation in GDP. Third point is comparison with developed countries of the world. So based on the GDP value of a country, we can easily identify the economic growth of a country. So therefore it helps in comparison with developed countries of the world. Fourth point is it helps to estimate the purchasing power. Here purchasing power means it is the amount of goods and services that can be purchased with a unit of currency. So based on the GDP value, we can estimate the purchasing power of a country. Fifth point is study of public sector. In general, the public sector consists of governments and all publicly controlled or publicly funded agencies, enterprises and other entities. The study of public sector includes and examines the impacts of government revenue expenditure and investment decisions. Guide to economic planning, that is, the GDP helps to guide in planning of all activities in an economy. All sectors of the economy, namely the agriculture, industry, transport, irrigation, power, social services, etc., are brought under its scope. So, based on this GDP, it helps to guide the economic planning. Limitations of GDP. There are certain limitations in calculating the GDP. Several important goods and services are left out of the GDP. The GDP includes only the goods and services which are sold in the market. The services provided by parents to their children is very important, but this service is not included in the GDP because it is not sold in the market. Likewise, clean air, which is important for a healthy life, has no market value and therefore it is not included in the GDP. So, therefore, the GDP includes only the goods and services which are sold in the market. Second point, GDP measures only quantity but not quality. That is, the GDP measures only on the number of productions of goods and services. Therefore, it concentrates only on the quantity and not the quality. As an example for this, in 1970s, schools and banks did not permit the use of ballpoint pens. This is because the quality of pens which were available in India were of poor quality. So, therefore, in order to improve its sales, the quality of the ballpoint pen were improved, and thus it leads to the increasing purchasing of the ballpoint pens. So, therefore, the quantity of the production of ballpoint pens also increased. Even though the improvement in quality leads to the increasing purchasing of the ballpoint pens, the quality of the product is not captured by the GDP. Third point, GDP does not tell us about the way income is distributed in the country. That is, the increase in GDP value shows that the economic growth of a country is more stronger. This GDP value is calculated on a whole and it is not based on the individual's income. So, therefore, the GDP of a country may be growing rapidly, but income may be distributed so unequally that only a small percentage of people may be benefiting from it. Fourth point, the GDP does not tell us about the kind of life people are living. The GDP per capita acts as a metric for determining a country's economic output per person living there. But it does not tell us about the kind of life people are living. There might be people living with very low health condition, an undemocratic political system, high pollution, suicides, etc. So the GDP does not tell us about the kind of people living, that is, the kind of life people living in that country. Composition of gross domestic product. Indian economy is broadly divided into three sectors. They are the primary sector, secondary sector and tertiary sector. First is the primary sector. Agricultural sector is known as the primary sector, in which agricultural operations are undertaken. It not only includes the agricultural operations like farming and cultivation, but also It includes the agricultural based allied activities like production of raw materials such as cattle farm, fishing, mining, forestry, corn, coal, etc. are also undertaken. Second is the industrial sector. Industrial sector is the secondary sector in which the goods and commodities are produced by transforming the raw materials. Commodities means it is a tangible good that can be bought and sold or exchanged for products of similar value. Important industries are iron and steel industry, cotton textile, jute, sugar, cement, paper, petrochemical, automobile and other small scale industries. Third one is the tertiary sector, which is the service sector. Tertiary sector is known as the service sector, which includes government, scientific research, transport communication, trade, postal and telegraph, banking, education, healthcare, and information technology, etc. In the 20th century, economists began to suggest that traditional tertiary services, that is parambaryamana, the tertiary services, could be further distinguished from quaternary and quinary service sectors. Contribution of different sectors in GDP of India. As we already studied, there are many sectors like service sector, manufacturing sector, mining sector, construction sectors, agricultural sector, public administration sector. Like this, there are many sectors in India. And now we will see the contribution of these sectors in GDP of India. According to the sector wise contribution of GDP of the year 2018-19, the service sector is said to be the largest sector of India. As you can see in this pie chart here, it shows the sector wise contribution of GDP of India in the year 2018-19. In this, you can see that the service sector is the largest sector, and the contribution through this service sector to the GDP is the maximum. It is 54.4 percentage. So, this service sector is said to be the largest sector of India. Gross value added at current prices for service sector is estimated at 92.26 lakh crore in the year 2018-19. What is meant by this gross value added? So, this gross value added is the measure of the value of goods and services produced in an area, industry, or sector of an economy. The formula to calculate gross value added GVA is GVA equal to GDP plus subsidies minus direct sales taxes. So GVA equal to GDP. We know already what is meant by GDP plus subsidies. Subsidies means these maniam, salugai, and also these loans also come under subsidies. So GVA equal to GDP plus subsidies minus direct taxes or the sales taxes. India is the second largest producer of agricultural products. India accounts for about 7.39% of total global agricultural output. So therefore, the contribution of agricultural sector in Indian economy is much higher than the world's average, that is 6.4 percentage. That is, the contribution of agricultural sector in Indian economy is much higher than the world's average contribution, which is 6.4 percentage. In industrial sector, India's world rank is 6, and in service sector, India's world rank is 8. That is, India stands sixth in the industrial sector, and in the world's service sector, India stands 8th. Contribution of industry and service sector is lower than the world's average, 30% for industry sector and 63% for service sector. So even though India's contribution of agricultural sector is much higher than the world's average contribution, but while considering the service sector and the industry sector, India's contribution is lower than the world's average contribution. Economic growth and development. As per the economist Amartya Sen, economic growth is one aspect of economic development. That is, the economic development of a country cannot be fully estimated based on its economic growth. It is only a part of it. Economic growth focuses only on the national income or the national output of a country. But economic development means it focuses on the quality of life and the living standard of the people in that country. That is, it measures the literacy rate, healthcare, education, etc. Also, United Nations sees it like this. Economic development focuses not only on man's materialistic need, but it focuses on overall development of or rise in its living standards. That is, also the United Nations has stated that the economic development focuses not only on the man's materialistic need. That is, the economic development not only focuses on the man's economic growth, but it focuses on overall development or rise in his living standards. Economic growth. The economic growth is a quantitative measure which only considers the rise in output produced in an economy or a nation. That is, this economic growth is a quantitative measure which only focuses on the number of goods and services produced in a country. The key parameters to measure the economic growth of a country is GDP and GNP. We have already studied about GDP and GNP. So based on these two parameters, the country's economic growth is calculated. Next is economic development. Economic development takes into account not only the increase in products or services of a country, but also an improvement in the living standards of the citizens of that country. Can you understand, children? Yes. The economic development takes into account not only on the increase in products or services of that country, but also on the improvement in the living standards of the citizens of that country. This economic development is a qualitative measure. Okay, it is not quantitative, it is qualitative measure which measures improvement in technology, labor reforms, rising living standards of people, broader institutional changes in an economy. So therefore it concentrates on the living standard of the people, literacy rate, healthcare, and labor reforms, employment, all these things. And next is the economist in recent days they have stated that HDI is the apt tool to measure the real development in an economy. HDI means Human Development Index. So they say that this Human Development Index is the correct tool to measure the real development in an economy. Difference between economic growth and economic development. Now we will see the difference between the economic growth and economic development based on the following factors. First, based on its definition and the meaning, we will see the difference between the economic growth and economic development. Economic growth is the positive quantitative change in the output of an economy in a particular time period. So, this economic growth focuses on the positive quantitative change, that is, the number of goods and services produced in a country. And economic development considers the rise in the output in an economy along with the advancement of HDI index, which considers a rise in living standards, advancement in technology, and overall happiness of the index in a nation. So, this economic development not only concentrates on the production and it also concentrates on the HDI index, which includes the rise in living standards of the people, advancement in technology, and overall happiness index of a nation. And next factor is concept. Economic growth is a narrower concept because it concentrates on only on the economic growth, that is the production, increase in production. But this economic development is a broader concept as it focuses on the living standard of the people. Nature of approach. The third factor we are going to compare is the nature of approach. Economic growth is quantitative in nature and economic development is qualitative in nature. Fourth one is scope. Economic growth focuses on the rise in parameters like GDP, GNP, FDI, FII, etc. But economic development focuses on the rise in life expectancy rate, infant improvement in literacy rate, infant mortality rate, and poverty rate. So it totally concentrates on the living standard of the people. And fifth factor is term or tenure. Economic growth is short term in nature. So that is it takes only a financial year to calculate the economic growth of a country. But this economic development is a long term in nature. And applicability. Developed nation, developing nation. So this economic growth, based on the economic growth, we can see the growth of a country. And this concept is applicable only for the developed nation because for the developed nation the living standard of the people will be high, so therefore they concentrate on only on the economic growth. And the economic development is applicable for the developing economies. And next factor is measurement techniques. By measuring the increase in national income, we can measure the economic growth of a country. And likewise, by measuring the increase in real national income, that is per capita income of of the people in a country, we can measure the economic development of a country. And the next factor is frequency of occurrence in a certain period of time. That is, we calculate the GDP and GNP for the products or services which are produced in a particular period of time. So, therefore, it is in a certain period of time, and this economic development is a continuous process. Last factor is government aid. It is an automatic process, so may not require government support or aid or intervention. So, this economic growth is an automatic process, so it may not require government support or aid or intervention. And economic development is highly dependent on government intervention as it focuses on the living standard of people. Yeah, the intervention of government, that is the help from the government, is very essential as it includes widespread policies changes. So without government intervention it is not possible. developmental path based on GDP and employment. During the British period, even though there were some positive benefits, the British on the whole had destroyed most of our resources. After independence, India first undertook the closed trade policy. This was to push or raise the domestic industries in India and therefore boycott the foreign goods and companies. India followed this closed trade policy till 1991. So, India's trade and interaction with other countries in the world were limited till 1991. Due to increase in population and the lack of jobs, India finally decided to open its borders to free trade and liberalized its economy by allowing foreign companies to enter the Indian economy. So this is how the foreign companies started to invest in India and start their businesses. So therefore people started to get jobs and therefore their living standard started to rise. Government also concentrated on rural development. Public sector industries were given more importance, and private sector companies or industries were subjected to follow strict rules and regulations. After all these measures, there was a sustained growth in the GDP, which leads to the rise in per capita income. In per capita income, India started to move towards the middle income country category. So, from lower income country category, India started to move towards the middle income countries category. And now let us see the factors supporting Indian development. The first factor is that a fast growing population of working age is an important factor. So the working age population has started to increase, so therefore this is an important factor which supports the development of India. And the second factor is India has a strong legal system and many English language speakers. So therefore they were easily able to communicate with the people of other countries, and they were able to deal and trade with the people of other countries. And the third factor is India's economy has successfully developed in highly advanced and attractive clusters of businesses in the technology and space. So these are the three factors which supports the development of India. Growth of GDP and economic policies. Many economic policies have been framed by the government of India since independence for increasing rate of economic growth and economic development. The important economic policies are the following. First one is the agricultural policy. Agricultural policy is the set of government decisions and actions relating to domestic agriculture and imports of foreign agriculture products. So, this agriculture policy is a set of government decisions and actions which are related to domestic agriculture and also on the imports of foreign agriculture products. Some important themes included in this agriculture policies are risk management and adjustment. So, it must concentrate on the risk factors which are faced by the farmers, and it should focus on the economic stability of the farmers. That is, they must be given certain subsidies for the seeds, and also they must be given the loans in appropriate manner. And natural resources and environmental sustainability research and development, that is the government should also focus on the availability of water, and it should also provide them the needed help during the floods and cyclones. And market access for domestic commodities. The farmers must be given the freedom to fix the rate for their products. And some of the agricultural policies are price policy, land reform policy, green revolution, irrigation policy, food policy, agricultural labor policy, and cooperative policy. The second one is the industrial policy. Industrial development is a very important aspect of any economy. It creates employment, promotes research and development, leads to modernization, and ultimately it makes the economy self sufficient. That is, the industrial sector not only concentrates on the employment and the modernization of the nation, it also helps in the improvement of other sectors like the agricultural sector and service sector. This industrial sector is closely related to the development of trade. Several industrial policies have been enacted since 1948. The industrial policy on large scale industries, example, textile industry policy, sugar industry policy, price policy of industrial growth, small scale industrial policy, and industrial labor policy. And third one is the new economic policy. The economy of India had undergone policies in the beginning of 1990s. This new model of economic reform is commonly known as LPG, that is liberalization, privatization, and globalization. Liberalization is the freedom of trade. So, India can freely trade with other nations and other countries can freely trade with India. And second is privatization. Privatization is the transfer of ownership or business from the government to the private sector. And globalization is the integration of a country with the world economy. So these three factors are said to be the new model of the economic reforms. These economic reforms had influenced the overall economic growth of the country in a significant manner. Gross national happiness. The king of Bhutan said that gross national happiness is more important than gross national product. And the United Nations General Assembly passed a resolution accepting and approving the words of the King of Bhutan, and it urged the member nation to follow the example of Bhutan and measure happiness and well being and calling happiness a fundamental human goal. The four pillars of the GNH are sustainable and equitable socio-economic development, environmental conservation, preservation and promotion of culture, and good governance. And all these factors are essential for the happiness of the citizen of that country. The nine domains of GNH are psychological well being, health, time use, education, cultural diversity, and resilience, good governance, community vitality, ecological diversity, and resilience and living standards. And these are the nine domains of the gross national happiness. So today we studied about the GDP, GNP, and the classification of Indian economy into three sectors. They are the agricultural sectors, industrial sectors, and service sectors. And we also studied about the contribution of different sectors in GDP of India, and we came to know about the economic growth and development of the country. And finally, we studied about the growth of GDP and economic policies. Go through the lesson, children. Keep learning. Thank you.